Hey, peace and blessings to you. My name is Jerry B. I am the EntreMusician, and so are you. And talking about a special episode where we are absolutely going in on this episode of the EntreMusician. If you've known me for over 5 minutes, you know that I'm a child of the 70s. I grew up on 70s music. It's still in my blood. And we are going to be chatting with none other than Knox of the Chairmen of the Board. And I'm talking about 70s soul, late 60s, doing it, Holland-Dozier-Holland, that whole juice right here. Well, here's one of the brothers that's keeping the legacy alive. Brother Ken, how you doing, my friend?
Jerry, hey man, that's I love your speech, but you know what? I'm a child of the 70s as well.
Yes. Oh. But you were on the other side of the microphone, though.
yeah, I was. Thank God, My thing was, growing up in Detroit, it was either in the factories or music. Thank God I found music.
Absolutely.
I didn't want to be in Fords or Chryslers and all my friends, they come out all greasy and stuff like that. I said, no, I don't want to do that job.
You came out polished, had the steps, the twirl.
Yeah.
I have family still in Detroit, and I would go up there every summer, and my aunt, she worked dispatch for the police department there. We were about nice. four to five blocks away from what now is the MOTOWN Museum. So, Smokey Robinson and some of the Miracles would come down the block, and we were just mesmerized. I'm this little kid right here. So, I love it.
That was big stuff. I mean, you get a chance to see the people you hear on radio or the artists you were, when you went to somebody's house. And back then they had a hi-fi, and they would be playing that stuff on there. So and now you're seeing the artists come down the street.
It's coming down the street, walking in, knocking on the next door, neighbor's house, and we were just like, "Can we get an autograph?" It was just all love, man. That was good times.
Nice.
And what was the brother's name? Ron from the Dramatics. What's his name? Ron Banks.
Yeah. Ron Banks,
yeah, from the dramatic. I mean, so all that juice, man. When I say the 70s is in my blood, it really is, especially that R&B, soul, Motown. But you came into the time where Chairman of the Board had already been solidified as a group. I believe it was when HDH left Motown. Is that correct?
Yes, and you're right on track. When they left Motown, they started their own label. HDH or Invictus Records.
Yes, Invictus.
So one of the first acts was Chairman of the Board, Honeycomb, Laura Lee. It's a whole roster of great talent because about HDH being the best writers there were, they knew talent.
Yeah.
So they had a great stable of talent there. So I came in the middle of it. I joined in 1973. The first hit, round 70. Give Me Just a Little More Times, round 1970.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you got me dangling on the string? That was another juice right there. That was juice. Pay the piper, of course.
Tuesday.
Everything's
Pay the piper. Everybody knows, ask your mama. That was a good thing about. General Johnson and Greg Perry, they were great writers, and they would hear a phrase and turn into a song, like "Ask Your Mama," "One Monkey Don't Stop No Show,"
right?
For Honeycomb, Want Ads. It was a team. These guys, like I said, General Johnson, Greg Perry, and Angelo Bond, they were like HDH.
Wow.
So they were writing the hits for Chairman of the Board, Honeycomb, 100 Proof, Aged in Soul, Somebody's Been Sleeping in My Bed.
Oh, yeah. They wrote that? Is that right?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, man. They wrote and produced it.
Wow. So they had to run to the studio, and so Lamont and them just said, "Yo, go with it." They were like
Yeah, because
proteges, huh?
they saw the talent in those guys. Um, you couldn't lose
Yeah,
because their first records were gold records back then.
yeah.
Their first songs that they, gold records, and so the team, they stayed with those guys. So
Well, I found out that General Johnson wrote Patches, which Chairman of the Board recorded, and then Clarence Carter recorded. I think he won a Grammy for that.
yeah, General won the Grammy for Patches. Actually, him and Ronald Dunbar, who's no longer with us, that they wrote the song together. And when we performed that thing live, man, people are crying. When we lost General in 2010, and we lost, I mentioned another member, Danny Woods.
Yeah.
We lost him in 2018. But back in the day when we would perform that song, whole audience is weeping.
Wow. Yeah.
And a lot of people identify with that song.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
In fact, they thought General was born and raised in Alabama.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Just like the Temptations, when you watch the movie, they had a spoof on Papa Was a Rolling Stone, and so they had the character playing Dennis Edwards saying, "Well, my dad died, the 3rd of December," and he was like, "Well, use it, right?"
Yeah. Right, there it is. I mean, yeah, and like you said, Clarence Carter got that hit out of it, though. I mean, that Southern soul that Clarence brought to it.
Absolutely. Well, what do you think the flavor of Detroit was back in those days? It had a lot of people that migrated, of course, from the South. You know what I mean? To go to work in the factories and in the car plants and whatnot. So they brought that soul with them, that Southern,
That's right. Matter of fact, General was from Norfolk, Virginia. Greg was from Chicago. And I think that I'm trying to think one of the acts on Invictus was from the South. I can't remember who it was. But yeah, the South meeting the North. I mean, the product, by having that, that Southern soul feel, that product, the end product was always the bomb.
Yeah.
Because you got the feeling from the singer, you got the feeling what the writer was trying to accomplish, and the arrangements were the deal. And that's McKinley Jackson. McKinley Jackson was one heck of a arranger for Invictus Records, so he put it all together.
Wow. Well, the 70s, man, was all about, some synths came in, 78, 79, 80, but for the most part, it was real strings, it was real horns, it was a real rhythm section, and it was a groove, which was a sync of a bunch of souls getting together and making it happen, and not one or two programmers. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's the beauty of it all, having souls playing the different instruments, horns or whatever. It's just a great feeling, man, to hear that stuff being in there and hear it come to life.
Yes.
The arranger, like I said, McKinley Jackson, he put it all together, and General Johnson would produce it. So would Greg Perry. I mean, come on, One Ads is one heck of a produced song. I mean, you might hear a little bit of Jackson. Yeah, it was tight, but you might hear a little bit of the Jackson 5 with the guitar, ding, 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 ding. But that's the 70s.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So everybody borrowed from each other.
And the Honeycomb sang the heck out of it though too. I mean, it was just like they were just like real fly and right on point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
They gave Frida Payne a run for her money. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, you know who recorded first?
I don't.
Frida's sister,
Cherie
Payne recorded. Yeah, she recorded One Ass first.
I didn't know that.
And she didn't like it. So they said, okay, we'll put it on Honeycomb. and Connie Cone had a smash out of it.
Yeah, total
Yes.
smash. Now let's go
Yes.
back to Ron Dunbar for a minute, because you said Ron and General wrote the song Patches for Clarence. Is this the same Ron Dunbar who was a part of Parliament Funkadelic later on? Is that the same Ron?
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep. The same Ron. The same Ron. He was a part of that, you know, that group. I mean, I'm not as a group, you know what I mean?
Sure. Conglomerate.
So Ron was very instrumental in getting Chairman. You know, he wrote "Give Me Just a Little More Time."
Oh, wow.
And when I joined, speaking of Parliament Funkadelic, that was the band.
P-Funk was the band for Invictus?
Absolutely.
So they were the Funk Brothers of Invictus Records.
There you go. Because basically, I also play saxophone. So, and when they had me come over to the studio, I see all my heroes around this corner. I said, "Oh my God!" There's Eddie Hazel, there's Billy Bass, there's Bernie Worrell, T. Fullwood on drums. I said, "Oh my God!" And I mean, I was like in heaven, because you know, being a musician too,
right?
I love Funkadelics, and those guys, they took a liking to me, and they took me under their wings. In fact, I used to room with Bernie on the road.
Gee, Bernie.
But yeah, so you're right. That's the Funk Brothers for Invictus, and a lot of people don't know that. You know.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you go ahead? I mean, there's been many books written with respect to Motown, autobiographies and whatnot, but can you tell us the inside story of why HDH actually left the Motown umbrella?
It's in the book.
It's in a lot of books.
It's in a lot of books.
It's a lot of books.
You know, yeah, I mean, I can't really say. You know, all I know, they got out of there, you know. But like you said, it's in many books, and maybe one day you need to get them on.
I would love to. I mean, 14 #1 hits for Motown. Boom, 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 boom. Not one and then 4 years later. I'm talking about click, click, right. Click, click.
That's right. Oh my God. I mean, you can't get any better than that. Right. You know.
That's right.
They were just fantastic. And then we just lost Lamont Dozier.
That's correct.
About a couple months ago.
Yeah, August, I think he left.
Yeah, you know, but the team still music always stays. The person may leave, but their music is always around.
Absolutely. Now, how did you come about? Now, I know that when General left, at least it says on your website, he wanted to make sure before he passed on that the legacy of the Chairman of the Board was strong and healthy. Was there conversations to that end as he grew, weaker, or what was the conversation like about making sure that legacy stayed strong?
Well, General basically passed the baton to me, and because I was with General and Danny, we were together for 35 years. I'm going on my 48th year. And he basically said that he wants to come back. Don't know if he can come back. And just said, keep the legacy alive. And I said, I'm going to do my best. And I've been very fortunate to have the fan base behind me.
Yeah.
They have supported, because when you look at, I mean, they've seen us for all these years.
Certainly.
So when we lost General, I mean, it was like somebody's brother was gone, or somebody's father had just left. That's the impact he had on a lot of people.
Yeah.
And Danny, the same thing. When Danny became ill some years later from diabetes, and so Danny and I did some shows. We continued doing some shows together until he couldn't do it anymore.
I see.
And so I was left, those guys trusted me. and they also taught me. And as people say, there's nobody else that could lead the Chairman of the Board because I'm a part of that brand.
Yes, sir.
And I'm thankful.
Absolutely. Well, tell me a little bit about Eddie and Harrison. Did you know much about them? Were you?
I knew Harrison when I got in the group. Harrison was in the group. I actually took Harrison's place.
I see.
Yeah. I never met Eddie.
Okay.
Never met Eddie.
I think he left after
Harrison,
the second. He left after the second album. Yeah.
Yes. So Harrison was still around, and of course he was Canadian, and he lived over in Canada, and he would come over for the shows and the studio stuff. But I think it comes a point when artists also have a itch to do solo stuff.
Sure.
So Harrison left to do his solo career and doing quite well with it for all these years. And then when he left, I was moved straight in,
Yes.
But I did work with him for a few shows.
Mm-hmm. Good dude.
And I talked to him on occasion. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry.
Still, I said good dude, good chemistry. All that was on point.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to him maybe a few months ago. He had lost his daughter, and he really appreciated me calling him.
I see. Yes.
So yeah, it's all good, man. He loves what I'm doing, because I'm representing him as well. Yes,
sir. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, what about Thomas and Brandon? Let me know about them brothers.
Oh man, so those guys are like when I was putting this thing back together, the first person I hired was Thomas. He came to the office and said, I would like to audition for you. And so I said, all right, well, what you got? And he sang a few lines. I said, hold it. What size do you wear? And so he's like, oh my God. I said, yeah. So this is the first big thing for him.
Yes, sir.
Same thing for Brandon. Brandon sings like an angel, man. He's got a great voice. He's the youngest. Yeah. He's been with me. Well, Thomas been with me, this is the 13th year, and Brandon's been with me 11. So I took the guys over to England, and they didn't want to come back. We've been over there like 4 or 5 times, and they love it because the people over there, they sing the words back to you.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to sing anything.
Absolutely.
But Thomas and Brandon, they've been a great asset as new members of Chairman of the Board, and my band, the Executives. They crush every night that we play.
Yes.
So very, very fortunate. And again, fans around the world love what we do.
Absolutely.
And thank you for this night.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. I'm so grateful for the opportunity that you're giving me because I feel blessed, man. The history, again, when you're 5, 6, 7 years old and you're hearing these songs and they make such an impact on you. I mean, it's all around, especially, there's nothing like summer in Detroit, Michigan to me. 1974, 1975, I'm like, yo, I'm back in Youngstown, Ohio, but again, I got family in Detroit, and I'm spending all 3 months down there. Wow. So, that music is just infectious. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. You go down the street, you're allowed to hear Junior Walker, you're allowed to hear Mitch Ryder. Just so diverse. What's the other boy? Bob Seger. There's so many. And then later on, here comes I said, boy, Eminem.
Yeah. Detroit.
Detroit. Yeah, man. That's Music City.
That's absolutely
now, you guys got some great guys coming out of Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
Ohio players.
Yeah. Well, Ohio is the funkiest state in the nation. We just got to take that over. It's the funkiest state.
I did a stint with Junie when he left the Ohio player.
Come on. Don't go down that street, brother. My God.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Junie. Yeah, man. So you're right. Ohio Players uh, was the stuff, and the other boy, the Troutman brothers.
Yeah,
Uh,
Roger and
Bootsy. I mean,
Bootsy Collins.
yeah,
Yeah, man. Oh
yeah.
boy. And the
A
deal,
lot of.
L.A. and Babyface, Ohio.
Oh, they come out. There?
Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
The Deal. They was in a band called The Deal
I remember
before they
that.
stepped
Yeah.
out, and of course Lakeside. You know, I
Didn't
mean,
know that. Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Man, nothing
Ohio.
but funk.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
what I mean. And then, of course, so Bootsy is in there. You got Junie from Ohio, so you got that juice right there.
Yep.
You got Billy
Yeah,
Beck
man.
from the Ohio Players right here from Youngstown, Ohio.
Was he the drummer or the keyboard player?
No, he replaced Junie on keys, Billy, and he
That's
had the
right.
high voice, Love Roller
Yes.
Coaster, I Want to Be Free.
Yeah.
Come on.
Woo. Woo-wee.
That's
Yes,
juice.
sir.
Absolute
Yeah, man.
juice.
And I'm gonna tell you something else. So,
Sure.
when Junie left Ohio Players, so I lived with him for like 2 months. The band, we stayed with him, because getting the stuff together. Now, Pee Wee, the trumpet player,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
his wife used to make our clothes.
Wow. I think I saw that on Unsung, if I'm not mistaken.
Really,
the
I need to go see that myself.
yeah, the documentary, because they
Yeah,
were more like a family, the Ohio Players as they traveled through. But Pee Wee, yeah, yeah, I think that's
yeah,
right.
man. They used to come. They used to come over to the house, see what we
Man,
were doing.
absolutely. Now I wonder, and I need to ask Billy this the next time I see him. But I'm wondering, as the baton was patched, some of those early, like the Skin Tight, I Want to Be Free, that type of stuff. If Junie's influence was like kind of still there, did they work together or did Junie make a clean break? Because his solo stuff is crazy, not to mention One Nation Under a Groove and the Parliament stuff, Funkadelic. But
Yeah, yeah.
Junie's solo stuff was genius.
Oh yeah. Tightrope was one of them.
Oh my God.
But you know what? I think you're right. I think Junie's influence was for Billy Beck.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
without fail.
like I said, the high voice. Junie
Yeah,
did the same thing, and those solos,
yeah.
and also somebody else came from Ohio Players over to George Clinton. Golly, who was that?
Hmm.
Oh man, I can't remember that now. It'll come to me. But yeah, Ohio is full of funk.
It is. It is. And, Michigan is right down the street. Detroit is 5 hours
Yeah.
away.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah,
boom, it's
yeah,
right there. So that
yeah.
juice is on point. But you bring about a good point that I wanted to ask you about because of the fact that, we're talking about funk, but then all of these different layers and genres of music. The chairman of the board, you put your own record label together, but you got into beach music, you got into gospel music. I mean, that King of Kings is just the straight out flattest gospel that I've ever heard. I mean, this is not like the chairman of the board are going to do a gospel song now. I mean, y'all, pop, you just bring it. So tell me about the
Man,
different genres and flavors of the band.
you know what? And you're right. When we had our own label, we controlled us. So General came to me and Danny and said, we've never had a Christmas album. And, I said, you know what? You're right. So he started writing the song King of Kings. I mean, that song is so powerful.
It is.
Yes. And that even now, churches, choirs call into the office, or they were calling to the office, wanting the sheet music because that song was so powerful. General wrote that, man.
Wow.
I mean, because General grew up he sang with his father in his father's gospel group at 12 years old.
Well, there you go.
So all the influence was in him. But King of Kings, you can't beat it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hands
You
down.
cannot beat it.
Hands down. I heard that and I thought, they ain't playing. I mean, you have some quote unquote secular groups that give a nod, so to speak, to gospel music out of a courtesy.
Right.
But this wasn't a courtesy. This was right on point. And you can
It
feel
was
it.
right on point, man. He was so proud of that song, you know, because they came within, you know, and people loved it. And you're right. So we got a chance to do, and see, Danny Woods was off into gospel. So Danny did some gospel stuff, you know, and yeah, we were a very versatile group.
Absolutely. Well, you can tell us then, being that you were owning a record label, you can tell us then, you know, not to dump at all. It's just a question because, again, I was a young kid while this was happening, but the music industry itself, the music business and the way that records came out was of a very different flow than it is right now with everybody from their computer uploading to Spotify or whatever. What were some of the processes that you think, as we go into the future, that we shouldn't lose, we shouldn't throw away?
Good question. When we had our label, we were still doing stuff traditional way, you know, pressing 45s and CDs and LPs and stuff like that, which they're coming back, as you know.
Absolutely.
LPs are coming back. We never went the route of the electronic stuff. We still went the route of live musicians. I headed up, I was vice president of Surfside Records. Of course, Jim was president. And back then, we would sign a group, take them in the studio, and I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but I'm just telling you what we used to do.
Certainly.
Take them in the studio and put the records out. And that was being independent, because that's what everybody's doing. I mean, Prince was the king of independence.
Absolutely.
You know, so the king, and so that's how we did it. Now, the other side of the question was, what was that you asked?
So what about the process of the way the record industry moved about that we shouldn't lose as we continue to go forward with respect to instantaneous? You know, I think I'll tell you what I think, and then you can correct me if I'm wrong. And this is just from the out, you know, I'll say it. I'm a year or two younger than you are, right? So, you know, from what I see, from my perspective, is that artist development is one of those major things that record companies took time to make sure. And it wasn't just, oh, you come out any old kind of way, cussing on a beat, and then that's the record. I mean, for some things that might work if that's the genre and the guy or girl is a genius. But I think from what I see from MOTOWN, what I see from Invictus, what I saw from Stax Records, even was there was a presentation, and if you were going to be a recording artist, you were going to have to bring it totally and completely. Right. And I don't see that. I see artists come out with their phones, they're singing the lyrics on their phone, you know, and you're going, wait a minute. So I'm asking about those traits, you know.
You're right. I think that should never go away, because, like you said, who wants to see somebody, you know, sing with I mean, you got to be polished. Man, it's an art to all this stuff, you know, and that's why they had art. I mean, people telling you how to walk, talk, dress. You know, that's what made you stars. Instead of YouTube stars, you got YouTube stars now.
Right. What was the brother's name? Charlie Atkins? Charlie Atkins.
Everybody worked with Charlie Atkins, from Spinners to the OJs to the Detroit Emeralds to everybody. Honeycomb, they even worked with them. So you're right, man. Those are good days.
Absolutely. So now that you know the train of the question, what else do you see that shouldn't be lost in this whole form of presentation? How often did you guys rehearse? I mean, how many hours a day? How many days a week?
Wow, that's a real good one. Back in the day, it's like recording, like you're recording a song. You go in at 8 o'clock, come out at midnight. just to rehearse so you can be tight. So you're right, that's missing as well. But then again, I think some of the acts, like the Baby Faces and Charlie Wilson's, I'm pretty sure
Gap Band,
they use that formula. You know,
oh, yeah.
I'm rehearsing all day, getting it tight,
Yeah.
And going on out there. But you're right, we shouldn't lose that, because it will tell on you if you hadn't rehearsed. And then a lot of these guys are using tracks, and then the tracks get stuck, and I've seen that happen a lot of times, and it's very embarrassing.
Certainly.
But you know, but you're right, the rehearsals, you have to do that. Now, we rehearsed when we were touring nationally. We did that, like I said, going to 8, come out at midnight or whatever, go back the next day, and then pick right back up. But as when we start coming towards the South, we would only rehearse half that time. You know, we cut it in half, you know, because we were always on the road. So we didn't really have the time to do it. So we had to fit it in and get it in.
Understood. Well, what do you think was some of the most challenging times for the band? Was it in an aspect? It's a 3-part question. Was it an aspect of the recording, performance, or the business? And what was the most challenging for Chairman of the Board?
The business. It's always first. I don't know. You remember the group Alabama?
I do.
Country group, right?
Yeah. I remember.
All right. So I was reading an article a couple of days ago, and the drummer, Mark Herndon, I know him personally. He never got the money the other 3 boys got. He was looked upon as a hired musician.
I see.
But his face propelled that group because he had that rock and roll look. They used him to propel. And the one thing he said he wished he had done was took care of business, because they were making hundreds of thousands of dollars. He was making $40,000. But they were using him.
So there was no contract. There was no written agreement in the band to say that you are an employee.
Yes,
wow.
That's the problem. That's the problem. So I would say, yeah, business definitely first. We were fortunate. We took control when we had our own label. Then we can control that stuff. But business, and then what was the other 2?
So business, performance, and recording. You know, what was the most challenging aspect between the 3? You've discussed the business in.
Yeah, recording. Okay, like in Detroit, you got when we would record in Detroit, you had these major engineers that knew their stuff. They even produce. You know, there was engineers at Invictus that produced songs.
Wow.
But when we stopped touring nationally and came south, man, it was like pulling teeth trying to get something out of these engineers, which they finally got it, and they appreciated working with us because they learned some stuff. So engineers is to me the 5th singer or the 4th singer. You know, right. Everybody has to be meshed. So that was challenging.
In your organization, did you have an engineer that you recorded with and then went out on the road with you to run, you know, front of house and, you know, the live stuff, or was that always different?
No, it was totally different. The engineer, we found by taking an engineer on the road, did not work. It was horrible.
Wow.
So we tried it one time, and the guy was great inside the studio, but when he could not mix live. So we had to hire production companies who that's all they did was record live. So it was a big difference.
Wow.
So it may have changed by now. You know, again, this is like 75, 76. early 80s, man, you can't take an engineer from a studio out. It's horrible.
That is funny. That's funny. Well, I am so grateful that you chose to spend your time with us this evening and
Man.
share memories and hook us up on what was happening, what was out there, and what life was like back in the day when you guys were really making it happen. But
Man.
I want to ask, you've done tons of interviews and you've done podcasts and whatnot, but was there something that you expected me to ask you and for some reason I haven't asked and you want to make that a mainstay of every interview?
Man, Jerry, you blew my mind.
Just a great conversation, brother.
And you're right. Listen, when you start asking about this and what happened, I said, man, Jerry did his homework. You were on top of it. I think, and you hit some topics that a lot of people don't even ask.
I read a lot of liner notes as a kid, though. I read a lot of liner notes.
Okay. Well, all that works though. But your delivery in asking these notes, you're good.
Thank you.
You're good. I'm honored to be on your show.
I'm glad.
Because as you know, you probably do a lot of them. I do a lot of them. But I'm going to tell you, your show is one of the best that I've done because you hit on beginning, the middle, and the future.
Yes, sir.
So, and hey, I am so glad that I'm sitting here in front of you, and thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, let it not be the last time, okay? And
yes.
I was telling you offline about our sister show, which is called Artist Impact. And you guys know about Artist Impact here in this region. But with respect to that, Brother Ken, I'd love to have you come on as a panelist. And, you'd be surprised at the different genres and various artists that we have. And I'm sure that they would gain some wisdom from you checking out their songs and letting them know what they need to improve on.
Okay.
Hey.
I would be glad to do it, or just let me know.
Absolutely will
man,
do.
Thank you so much for having me, and it took a couple of months.
Yeah, it did. Taz and I went back and forward with different dates and whatnot, but it worked out.
but you know what's gonna be good when you finally catch up with Shelly and
Verdine. That's going to be on point.
Yeah, that's going to be great, because before we go, we had them on our show. That's how, on our very first or the second or third podcast, we had Shelly and Verdine on.
Yeah.
And then Shelly joined us as a host. So, yeah. Hey, man, but great work that you're doing, and you're very educational, and I love what you do.
I appreciate that, man. Back at you. Chairman of the board is in my blood. So know that there was this little black kid in Youngstown, Ohio going, give me just a little more time.
There you go. Hey, why not?
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much.
Well, blessings to you and blessings to you. That's going to do it for this episode of the EntreMusician. Ken Knox, chairman of the board. Listen, go back down memory lane. Put that stuff back on. Yeah, dust off the turntable. The holidays are coming. And make sure you get some chairman of the board in your bloodstream as well. Like, subscribe to this channel. Share this video with others. Tell 10 people you know and 15 people you don't that you hang out with the EntreMusician. My name is Jerry B. Love you so much. I am the EntreMusician, but you know what's most important? So are you. We will see you again next time. God bless.